Hi there. I usually put out videos in Telugu language. Well, in reality, it's actually Telugu and English combined. That's because I can't help myself. I am doing this in English so that I can reach a wider and a specific set of audience. Who am I? For those of you who are first seeing my videos, I am a professor of engineering, let's say at a major university in the United States, because my job has nothing to do with this, or my employer has nothing to do with this. I'm not I'm not identifying them. But I want to address some of the comments Arnab Goswami made recently in a video. So that's the main reason why I started. I want to make this in two parts. In the second part, I want to highlight a congressional testimony one of the Indian doctors gave 3 years ago. First, I want to address some of the comments Arnab Goswami made in his 7+ minute plea to Indians on H-1B visa. I'm not playing all 7 minutes. For those of you who watch my videos, I know I made fun of Arnab Goswami in the past, but this plea by him appeared to me that it's very sincere, and he was also not screaming. So I want to address that in all sincerity back. Let's play a small part of what he said. Of course, you can find the full video on YouTube.
I have two straight questions today. Has the American dream, therefore, failed, and is it clearly over, absolutely over, for Indian tech professionals? We must come to terms with this fact. And to Indian tech professionals, I would say, don't be under any sort of sentimental attachment to the American dream. This is not just arm twisting by Trump to get an upper hand on the negotiations in the India-US bilateral trade deal. I believe there's a sense of finality to this move. It'll be difficult to reverse. And this is the time for Indian techies working in the US to truly ask themselves why they want to be in a country that does not value them, A, which does not respect them. Why do they desperately want to be in a country that makes them feel unwanted? That is telling them effectively that they will never be part of American society, that they will forever be marginalized. Unfortunately, for some Indian techies, they believe this is just one bad dream. It's not. It's irreversible change in policy. Regardless of who comes to power, this will not change. And therefore, I completely agree when Sridhar Vembu of
In that 7 minute video, Arnab has given a lot of statistics which match the statistics I've been gathering. So I don't have any problem with the statistics. But I am making this video to rebut some of his arguments, or maybe give a more nuanced take on this, right? So he has been making very strong assertions like about how Americans feel about Indians or H-1B. Are there Americans who don't value Indians and don't respect Indians and forever marginalize Indians or make Indians feel unwanted? Absolutely there are. Absolutely there are. But there's a big chunk of Americans who do not do that. I have a lot of close American friends. I have Indian friends. I don't see any difference in the way we approach things. If anything, I can have a more honest conversation about this dynamic with my American friends than with some of my Indian friends. Different reasons. I'm not putting down my Indian friends, but generally speaking, that's true. And also, it is more effective to have those conversations with American friends, right? Mr. Goswami has been overgeneralizing the entire American population. MAGA is not America. Yes, if you are MAGA, it's very likely they're all what Mr. Goswami was saying. But that's not America. The America I knew, I associated myself with, welcomed me and provided me an opportunity, which made me a professor now in a major university. And as a matter of fact, yesterday after my class, I had a very honest conversation with my graduate class. We were just talking about H-1B issue situation. It's a smaller class. Two of the students were, I would say, just a big percentage of the class, either an OPT training or in the past have been H1, came back to F1, and that's the dynamic that's going on. And they feel very unsettled by this environment. Other part of the class is American citizens. There is one person who's naturalized here, not from India. So we had a very honest, direct conversation. I cannot let these kind of comments apply to those Americans, whether they are my students or not, who wholeheartedly, genuinely support the H-1B visa program or the immigration policy, green card, and path to citizenship. No, They're not bigots. They're not telling you to get out. They're not telling Indians to get out. They don't hate Indians. I am defending my fellow Americans who are white. Yes, at times it feels that way. I'm not denying Mr. Goswami's argument. It feels that way. That doesn't mean that you pack up and leave. Okay, maybe for some people that is the right solution. I'm not denying that. So Mr. Goswami also said there is a sense of finality in Trump's decision to impose $100,000 visa fee. Basically, he's saying this is a policy that is irreversible. No, I don't think so. I don't think so. Pendulum swings. If I have to put a number on the true supporters of Trump in terms of voters, it is no more than 17% of the American electorate. 17% of American electorate. That's true. You can do the math. This decision by Trump is no more final than that 17% representing entire America. Yes, most of the things Mr. Goswami has said might apply to a big chunk of that 17% who voted for Trump. Has the American dream failed? It appears that way for now, but it's always pitch dark before it's light. And Mr. Goswami said, Trump making a big mistake. I totally agree. Okay, stop the brain drain from India. Okay, you can make a case for that. I'm totally fine with it. But at the same time, for those who are having an American dream, if any of your kith and kin are discouraging you from having a dream, tell them straight. Having a dream is not a crime. Don't let some TV pundit or a WhatsApp university professor tell you how you should think and what decisions you should make, whatever it is. It's you who control the destiny of your life. India is my mother country. And if you give that analogy, America is my stepmother. I love them equally. I love them both equally. Yes, it is possible to do that. The reason I criticize American government and put out these videos, it's not because I hate this country. It's because I love this country. I want to make a difference as an American. And the battle I chose to fight is something close to home. The American dream of, say, my fellow Indians or expatriate Indians. And that's what I am doing. So one other thing I agree with Arnab Goswami is that I don't think Trump is doing this to get an upper hand on the trade negotiation against India. He's doing this because he's crazy. That's what I think. And he's doing this because Stephen Miller loves this. It seems to be the entire government is controlled by Stephen Miller, not Donald Trump. I talk to my American friends, white American friends. Well, granted, they may not have voted for Trump, but I also talk to people who voted for Trump. They don't want to admit the mistake, but I can see they're softening. I'm optimistic, folks. I'm optimistic. The next 3 years are going to be very rough, but better future for America is ahead. One other thing Mr. Goswami said is that if they can build billion-dollar companies abroad, they meaning like Indian immigrants, they can do that in India. I don't think it is that easy to do it in India. I don't think it is hunky-dory in India. I don't think so. For more than 7 decades, Indian governments failed Indians, failed Indian entrepreneurs, failed Indian innovation. My friend Kiran and I had a conversation recently on a live stream about how India failed in investing in R&D. Yes, India has multi-lane highways between cities now, like 25 years, great progress. I applaud that. But where does the urban infrastructure stand? 1 centimeter rain, entire roads are flooded. Isn't that failing Indian citizens? What's an average citizen to do? Just go fix the potholes themselves? It doesn't work that way. Don't get me started on corruption. The people in the government are corrupt, arrogant, and they are completely detached with the public life. Of course, in Trump's administration, we don't want Indian workers. In other words, like we want to send them away, but we want Indian corruption. That's what is taking place in Washington, D.C. now. Tom Homan got caught with $50,000 of brown bag from Kava cash, and Trump administration let him go. Those kind of things are possible in India, and they're here. America is importing that level of corruption here. Well, I'm not saying from India. There are lots of other countries who are corrupt like this. We don't address any of these political problems, and you're asking for people who are aspiring to do something better for themselves and their family to make a sacrifice to go rot in those potholes. I'm not saying it is all that bad, okay? Well, if the idea here is to shame people from aspiring to go abroad because they want better opportunity for themselves, let's do the shaming of the people who go from villages to cities. How is this different? Both are doing it for a better life for themselves, or at least what they perceive as better life. If democracy is about choice, let people make their choice. And if you care about the country, the governments, they shouldn't fail their citizens and create conditions where people try to leave and then put up with idiotic policies like what they are doing it in America now. Yes, it feels pretty dark now, but ladies and gentlemen, I am hopeful. I am hopeful that America will get better in 3-4 years time. And for those of you who have no idea about what H-1B visa workers go through in America, and yet give freewheeling opinions and advice to them, I want to present to you a congressional testimony by Ram Sanjeev Alur, a congressional testimony almost to the date 3 years ago during Biden administration. Watch this 3-minute clip. It explains everything that H-1B workers go through and the reality of that. And the other side of this video, I will tell you what this means.
To share my experience to highlight the problems faced by immigrant physicians today. Doctors like me are on a temporary work visa called H-1B. The H-1B visa only allows us to work in a specified location. Any work outside the specified location is considered a violation of a work permit. During the pandemic, I could not answer numerous calls for reinforcements near or far. Like me, there were an estimated 15,000 physicians that were restricted from being on the front lines providing life-saving services. The H-1B allows me to stay in the country with my family legally because of my valid non-immigrant worker status. If I can't work, we can't stay. This lack of protection with death or disability on the front lines is every temporary visa worker's nightmare. The H-1B visa also makes it difficult for us to travel outside the country. The last time my wife and I saw our aging parents was in 2019. You see, we need a visa stamped in our passports by a consulate in India in order to re-enter the United States. During the pandemic, this process was risky as consulates were either not open or were taking only few appointments. We just simply could not risk traveling outside when there was a great need here. My petition for permanent residency was approved in 2016 because it was in the national interest based on my work at the VA. However, we still have to wait for an immigrant visa number or a green card to become available, and I've been waiting 6 years, working 11 years, and been in the country for nearly 15 years. My wait could be another decade or more. Until then, my work permit or status needs to be renewed at least every 3 years, which is a huge administrative burden. I've had to renew my status 5 times so far. One hiccup in this long, complicated process, and my whole family will be affected. It is deeply unsettling that my daughter, who was born in India, will age out of legal status when she turns 21. It is hard to say out loud, but this is only 6 short years away. If I do not become a permanent resident by then, she will lose legal status and have to leave. Sadly, many families do not have the time I have and have gone through painful family separations. Our family is also a victim of poor healthcare access. We could not find mental health services for our daughter in Southern Illinois during the pandemic, and in June 2020, we decided to move to St. Louis area, but I continue to work at Marion VA and commute over 2 hours. During the same summer, my wife was restricted from driving for 6 months. For me, trying to balance home life and caring for patients was burdensome, exhausting, and unnecessary. The backlog in our immigration system and long processing delays were to blame. The time it took to process my wife's visa renewal was a trying time for our family. While we've faced some hardships, they are no worse than many other immigrant stories you've heard here before this committee. And unfortunately, they're not welcoming to the future generations of immigrant doctors.
Dr. Alur listed all the difficulties he's facing as an immigrant physician in this country. It's not unique for him. A vast majority of H-1B people go through with it. I get a lot of comments. It's important to address this. This freewheeling advising from somebody who has no idea about what H-1B people go through, and they go through, they slog through, they go through these difficulties because that's a choice they made. I'm pretty sure they question their own choices quite often. Why did we come here in H-1B? Why do we have to go through this? We go back and all that. Goswami is asking, why go through all those difficulties where you can come back and live in India and make a difference in India? It's a genuine question. I'm not doubting that sincerity of that question at all. It's a genuine question. This is what I am posing to everybody who asked that question to Dr. Alur. And I'm asking you, do you think Dr. Alur and his family did not ask that question? Yes, they did. And I'm telling you, not because I talked to him, but I can tell you he asked himself that question. And you know what? In the end, his family chose to be in USA as opposed to India. And then I have to ask you, why is that? Why is that? And here is the answer. The Trump may have failed immigrants in this country. The Trump administration may have failed the American dream for now. Still, the hope that this will get reversed, Mr. Goswami, this is not an irreversible thing as you were claiming in your video. No, it is not. It is reversible. It is reversible. This country can undo that damage. Of course, if this kind of situation goes on for another administration, I think game over. But I'm optimistic it will change. Despite all the troubles he mentioned, Dr. Alur and his family chose to stay in the United States as opposed to going back to India. That's his individual choice. If he chose to go back to India, that's his choice too. Either way, I would respect his individual choice. I understand the pleas. You can make the pleas, but also respect the individual choices people make. And that's about freedom and democracy. Thank you for listening.